Welcome to Tina Tries. In celebration of the Artemis II mission around the moon, I built this easy to print and assemble Artemis II rocket and launch pad. Will this build make me want to launch my printer into space? Find out next on Tina Tries. Today's files are part of the modular Build-A-Rocket collection by Mauricio Duarte and can be found on MakerWorld. Back in episode 2, I built the Herbie clock that Mauricio designed, so when I saw that he had an Artemis rocket, I knew I had to build it. This was printed on an X1 carbon and an H2D in white, black, tan, gray, and orange PLA, as well as a black PETG. This print took just over 27 hours to complete and used about 695 grams of filament. You'll also need 4 M4 by 30 millimeter screws with nuts, 4 M2 by 10 millimeter self-tapping screws, as well as 9 M2.5 by 6 millimeter self-tapping screws. No glue is required for this one. Let's check out the build. Here are the printed parts. First step, we are going to assemble the launch pad. For the most part, it's either going to be screwed together or it's going to slide together. So this launch pad actually can be used with a cyber brick. So you can wire this whole thing up to make it remote controllable and actually move like a crawler by remote control. Or you can just set it up in toy mode, which does not require any of the motors or the wiring, which is what I'm gonna do in this case because I just wanna use this for a display. First step is to assemble the front and rear wheels, which are going to have the treads on them. So this is gonna be the bottom section of the launch pad or the crawler. So we have 4 thick wheels with teeth. We have 2 thin wheels with teeth. And we have 2 smooth wheels. For each of these 4 thick wheels, we're just gonna attach one of the thin wheels. They are threaded, so we're just gonna screw them together. Like so. We're just gonna make a little sandwich. These can be glued together if you want to make sure that they never come apart, but they do not need to be. So the front wheels are the smooth wheels and the ones with the teeth are gonna go on the back. Next up, we are going to take the base of our crawler here. The front part has these long slots here, and the back just has a single screw hole, as well as all of the holders for the electronics. We are going to put the wheels with the teeth on the back, so the side with the single hole, and the smooth wheels are going to go with this slot on the front here. The wheel covers that go on the side of the crawler are not identical, so you have to make sure that the side with all of the texture is going to be facing out when it's on your crawler. So line up the side with the slot. That's gonna be the front, and then the side with the hole is going to be in the back. So we're gonna make like a really big sandwich with our wheel and the wheel cover, and then the little axes. We're gonna put 2 axes in each wheel. There's an edge to it, so that's going to be facing out. I'm gonna put 1 on each side. And I'm gonna line that up with the hole here on the wheel. Then I'm going to take one of my M4 by 30 millimeter screws. I'm going to put a washer over the hole and thread the screw through there. Then I'm going to put my wheel with the axes through. And then this is going to line up on the body. And I'm going to take an M4 nut and I'm going to thread that onto the back of the screw on the inside of the body. I'm going to hold the nut in place and then I'm going to turn my screw and make sure that is pretty tight. There we have our wheel with the cover, and this should be locked into place pretty well. We're going to do the same thing with our front wheel. So remember, our front wheel is smooth. We're going to put one of the little axes in each side. get one of my screws and a washer. I'm going to thread this through a little bit. Hopefully my wheel will be lined up with both of the holes. I'm going to put a nut on the inside and I'm going to loosely screw this one on by hand. I don't want to tighten the front wheel up yet because we are going to put some crawler treads on these wheels before we tighten those front screws up. I'm going to leave that one loose for now until we get our tire treads on. So we're going to repeat the process on the other side. So, fun fact, if you do not have the correct size screw, you can always find the file for them if they are size M3 and up on MakerWorld, and you can print out your screws. And if they're not long enough, you can actually go into scaling, uncheck the box that says uniform scale, and then just increase your y-axis, and that will give you whatever length screw that you need. And let's do our last front wheel. Let's put our little axes on here, line it up. Remember, we are not going to tighten this one up quite yet. We're going to put the treads on the wheels first, and then we will tighten up these two front wheels. So there we have all of our wheels on here. Our front ones are not completely screwed in yet because we want to be able to tension these treads properly once we get those on. Next up, we are going to take our little print in place treads and we are going to make 2 rings with them. This step requires 4 2x10mm screws that are self-tapping. We are going to match the ends up here and we're going to put a screw through the side right here. So now we have 2 of our treads attached. And we are going to do the same thing on the other side so that we make a ring. So there is one of our tire tread rings, and we are going to do the same thing with these 2. So when you attach these together as a ring, you want to make sure that the teeth are on the inside of your tread. And there we have both of our treads properly aligned with the teeth on the inside. Now let's put them onto our wheels. So the teeth are going to fit into the little divots here around our wheel. Now we're going to slide the front wheel forward so that we get a bit of tension on the wheel, but you don't want to stretch it out too much. And then we are going to tighten this bolt to make sure that it stays in place. So there is one of our treads in place. Now let's do the other side. And there we have our second tire tread. So we are going to set that aside for now, and we are going to take the top of our launch pad. We're going to align the cover on top of the launch pad here like this. We want this square to be solid. If you put it on the other way, that is going to have a huge gap in here, and we don't want that. So make sure that you have it lined up so that this square is completely covered, and there's also a hole here that you want to line up in the middle, and then we are going to screw this into place. This part is going to use 2.5 by 6mm screws, and we are just going to put one in each corner and one in this hole in the middle. And there we have our cover on our launch pad. So next up is to build our launch tower. Each tower piece has a little dovetail on the top and the spot on the bottom that it should slide into. So I'm going to move this out of the way and we will slide the pieces of our tower together. Those fit together really snugly, and that tower is not going anywhere. Now let's slide our top piece on here. This has the same dovetail cutout, so it should slide together just like the tower pieces. And there we have the top of our tower. There is a side that has this ladder look to it, and this side that has all of these little slots. That is the side that we are going to slide onto this dovetail piece right here on our launch pad, and that's going to fit into the bottom of our tower. There we have our tower. You can glue that together if you want to, but it is really snug and I don't think it's going to come apart if you don't glue it. Plus, you can add or remove each of these tower sections. You can print out more, you can make it as tall as you want to fit whichever rocket you want to go with this launch pad. So that's pretty cool. And the last step, we are going to put the tower onto our crawler base right here. There are holes and a square on each of these, which are going to align with the holes and the squares on our tower. We are going to set this on here. The squares should line up with the squares here, and hopefully our screw holes will be aligned. So the front of our crawler here is going to be in front of our tower. So the back wheels are going to align with the tower here. And let's put our screws in. And again, these are going to use the 2.5 by 6 millimeter screws. And there we go. We have our completed launch pad. I'm going to set that off to the side and get out the pieces for the Artemis. So the nice thing about this Artemis model is that each piece is threaded to screw into the piece that it belongs with. So we don't need any screws, we don't need any super glue. We are literally just going to build this from the nose down. I am going to start with the nose cone here and the top Orion module. We are going to take the thickest, biggest black ring here and put that on top of the Orion module and screw the nose cone on, like so. Next, we're going to screw the cone-shaped piece onto the nose of our rocket. There we go. Then we are going to take our thinnest of the orange rings here. 4 of them are the same height. One is really thin, one is very long, and one has a ribbed texture to it. So we're going to take the shortest one and we're going to screw that to our nose cone, like so. Then we're going to take one of our tan colored rings that's going to go underneath here on one of our medium size tubes here. Then we're going to take another one of those and screw that on, like that. Then we're going to take the textured tube, put another of our tan rings on the top, and screw that one on. There we go. And then we're going to use one of our other medium ones. We're going to put another tan ring on there and screw this together. Next up, we are going to screw on the long tube. And finally, our last medium tube, like so. Now we're going to take this white part with the 4 holes for the rocket boosters, and we're going to put a tan ring on top of that, and then screw that on the bottom here. There we go. And the last bit is to screw the 4 little rocket boosters into the bottom of the white piece. And there we have the main part of our rocket. Now let's assemble our 2 side rocket boosters. The side boosters again have short wide cones, the 2 nose cones, 2 rockets for the bottom, 6 plain long cylinders, 4 plain short cylinders, and 2 long cylinders that have these little bars on them. So we're going to start with the nose cone. We're going to take one of our little black rings and a short plain tube, and we're going to screw those together. There we go. Next, we're going to use one of our long plain tubes, put a black ring on that, and screw that on, like so. Then we are going to take another one of our plane tubes, and we're going to take a black ring that has this little attachment here. That's a little clip that's going to help it attach to the side of the main Artemis rocket. So that's going to go on top of our tube here. Then we're going to use one of the plane rings and put that on a short tube and screw that on the bottom. And then this assembly is going to screw on to our nose cone piece. So there we go, the clip's in the middle here. Now we need another one of those clip pieces. We're gonna put that on another of our plain long tubes and screw that on the bottom. And you wanna make sure that your clips are in alignment. Otherwise, you're gonna have a hard time clipping that onto your rocket. Then we're gonna take another one of our black rings and one of the long pieces that have the bars on the bottom, put the ring on the top of it, and then we are going to screw that onto the bottom, like so. Then we're gonna take another black ring, put that on top of one of our short, wide cones, and screw that onto the bottom. There we go. And last but not least, we're gonna screw the little rocket into the bottom. And there we go. We have our completed side rocket booster. We need 2 of these though, so we're gonna repeat that entire process again. And there we have our second rocket booster. On our main Artemis rocket, on the longest section, there are little cutouts on each side. So the clips from our side rocket boosters line up and they clip into place, like so. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. And there we have our finished Artemis rocket with the side boosters. Last but not least, we are gonna use these clips to attach our rocket to our tower. So there are these little notches in the backside of the tower here, and our little rocket holders are going to clip into these. For this particular rocket, we want to put them in the third one up. So 1, 2, 3, push it all the way in. And then we also want it on the 9th one. And now we should be able to rest our Artemis rocket on here. There we go. Here is the finished Artemis II rocket and launch pad. I love this. It is much lighter than it looks, and it is a super sharp display piece. Mauricio also has several other different rockets that you can print which work with this same tower and launch pad. You just add and remove sections of the tower and the clamps as needed, which is great. You can have an entire collection of modular build-your-own rockets. Here are my rankings for this project. Ease of printing. This one gets a 9. You don't need an AMS for this one, and all of the supports are built into the pieces that need them. I didn't need to change any of the other built-in print settings for this file, with one exception. I found that my H2D tends to be a bit of a bull in a china shop and knock pieces over as it's printing. So I did end up going in and adding brims to some of the smaller side booster rocket pieces, as well as the launch pad plate and the treads, just to make sure that they didn't get knocked over during printing. I did also combine some pieces onto a single plate just to cut down on the print time. Everything fits together really well straight off of the print bed, including the print-in-place treads and all of the threads for screwing the rocket pieces together. If you're going to print your M4 screws, I highly suggest using PETG, as I don't think PLA will hold up very well. However, if you are planning on using this rocket for anything other than display purposes, for instance, if you want to put the Cyberbrick controller bits in there, you definitely need to use metal screws for this. Ease of assembly. This one gets another 9. The rocket and boosters were really simple to put together, and Mauricio provides colored diagrams as directions. The rocket is really sturdy once you put all of its pieces together, but you can also glue them together if you want them to stay in place permanently. The launch pad was also really straightforward to put together, and since everything is screwed together with actual screws, you also don't need any glue for this one. This is a great project for kids to put together as well, especially since you don't need any glue. If you do opt to use the Cyberbrick to motorize the crawler for this, the difficulty will bump up a bit. There's quite a bit of wiring and motors that you have to hook up. However, Mauricio also provides very detailed instructions that are colored with full diagrams, so he makes it as easy as possible. That's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking and subscribing. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any new episodes. My next episode will be a basketball reaction, so hopefully you come back for that one. Let me know which rocket model you would print in the comment section below, and I will see you on the next one.